Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours.
Massive attack on Ukraine, again. Oil refinery hit. Locomotives and fighter jet burned down. 2 Russian oil tankers sank. Chechen special forces barrack attacked. North Koreans on the battlefield. North Korean propaganda against Russia. Carol of the Bells, Shedrick. Russian losses in the war. I'll start with the massive attack on Ukraine on Friday, December 13. Due to heavy workload and blackouts, this video is coming out a few days late. I've stopped trying to keep up with all the news, and I'll publish the important things that are happening here in order of priority. The Russians repeated their favorite trick. They stockpiled a large number of missiles and drones and tried to destroy our energy sector again. This time they launched 287 air targets, 94 missiles and 193 drones of various types. The picture shows only those that we shot down with the help of air defense systems, numerous mobile fire teams on pickups, and our combat aviation, which includes both old Soviet aircraft and new F-16s from our partners. Plus, we landed 105 drones with the help of electronic warfare. 5 drones flew back to Russia and 1 to Belarus. I know that this method is called GPS spoofing, when we change the coordinates and the drone flies to another place. Apparently, instead of Kyiv, we show those Shaheds, Moscow or Minsk. Many of my friends say that their iPhones often show the wrong location here in the city. This is exactly what the electronic warfare system does. By the way, if you have ever been to Moscow, you know that the GPS doesn't work near Kremlin. They have been afraid of an attack on their towers for many years, but did it help in May 2023 when drones hit the Kremlin on Red Square? Ha! This is approximately what the route of Russian missiles and drones looked like that morning. With your permission, I'll not list all the missile models. They are all what we have already seen 1,000 times. Kinjals, Iskanders. More or less interesting is one ballistic missile KN-23 made in North Korea. As you can see from the trajectory, most of them were flying to the west. These are regions where it's more or less safe to be located due to their distance from the Russian border. Of course, most of strategically important objects and aircraft moved there. This is no secret, the Russians have known about these for a long time. Total, we were able to destroy 272 air targets. In percentage terms, this is an impressive 94%. The hits were on energy facilities, the thermal and conventional power plants. I do not know how important military experts consider this, but from my point of view as an ordinary person, it still looks not effective. They threw another $1 billion down the drain again, and we just sat without electricity for a couple of hours. Did this force Ukraine to capitulate? No. It's a little strange for me to talk like that about a massive missile strike. Don't get me wrong, this potential Armageddon in miniature, which did not happen simply because we shot down most of the missiles. If we hadn't shot them down, imagine what 287 flying bombs of different calibers could have done. Following this, videos appeared from the Oral region of the Russian Federation where we hit another oil refinery with the name Steel Horse. This is one of the largest oil terminals which supplied fuel to the army of occupiers. The situation looks like this in my opinion. We have already seen dozens of similar videos and these Russian oil refineries really burn well, but at the same time they did not run out. This is the result of the fact that Russians built the empire precisely on gas pumps. When at the beginning of the war they began to call it a mad gas station, I didn't fully understand the essence. Now I have studied this topic and yeah, they really do support most of their country on money from fuel sales. Take away the money from oil sales and the Russians will not be able to pay their soldiers because they have nothing else to offer the world. They do not have super technologies like Japan and Taiwan. They no valid art like Italy, no developed cinematography like the States, and definitely no banks like Switzerland. Just a huge amount of fossil fuels. Then a video appeared from Ukrainian intelligence service. This video combines 2 events at once. On Russian territory, Partisans burned 3 diesel locomotives and a military aircraft Su-27 with the tail number 16, which can be seen at the end of the video. These are successful sabotage operations far behind enemy lines, which are of great value to us. Diesel locomotives, like oil refineries, supply fuel for tanks and armored vehicles, and the aircraft, of course, directly participates in military operations. Yeah, here it is. Number 16. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. Jet fuel burns pretty well. And this is already sabotaged by the security service of Ukraine. In the video, you see how another locomotive burns out, which was carrying 40 tanks with fuel to the occupied territory of Ukraine in the south. As you understand, today we are betting on the destruction of Russian fuel reserves and infrastructure. What's interesting in this situation is that first our partisans blew up the railway tracks, and when the train with diesel fuel stopped there, they finished it off with the help of HIMARS. At the same time, Mr. Poseidon came to our aid and sank two oil tankers from the Russian so-called Shadow Fleet in the Black Sea, which were transporting oil. This is a very big problem here. If all this oil gets into the water, then an incredible man-made disaster could happen. 5,000 tons of oil products will pollute the Black Sea and kill the animal and plant world. Them Russians are simply destroying all living things around them, worse than Zergs in the game StarCraft. As Greenpeace, which for a long time did not even come into my field of vision as if the war does not affect the world around, said, quote, "If such a quantity of raw materials ends up in the sea, this accident will be one of the largest man-made disasters in the Black Sea. Well, let's do everything so as not to anger Putin, or he will commit another terrorist attack on land, in the water, or in the air, wherever he can reach." Next will be a video from Grozny, the city residence of Ramzan Kadyrov in Chechnya. It has sound and I want to show it in full because such videos do not appear often. It was filmed close-up during the drone attack, or rather an unmanned aircraft filled with explosive into the barracks of Kadyrov Special Forces. Probably filmed by guards, a very close call. We have already seen similar planes, but not up close. Chuck Pfeffer drew this picture with a description of this plane. It says here that it's called the A-22 Foxbat. You can pause the video and look at the details because it will take 10 minutes to name them all. In general, everything described is quite consistent with what we see. Such devices have already flown 500 or more miles deep into Russia, where they successfully hit military facilities and oil refineries. This is probably what the first kamikaze combat aircraft in Japanese army might have looked like if they had the technology and didn't have to, waste pilots, so to speak. North Koreans have appeared on the battlefield in Kursk region, which we currently partially control. I would like to show a video of at least 24 bodies, but YouTube won't let me. They say that this was probably done to take a photo from a spy satellite so that the command in North Korea can count them and no one escapes. We have no other explanation for why they are laying out their corpses under a ruler. Based on everything I've seen and heard from the military, the situation is approximately as follows. First, the North Koreans are in good physical shape. They are really accustomed to deprivation and hard physical labor. Second, their tactics and actions are very outdated. That is literally the way they move on the battlefield and hold their weapons. I've seen dozens of videos where they just walk in a crowd across the open field, not keeping their distance. As our soldiers say, this is just a gift for a machine gunner. Just put them all down at once. Third, they have very poor communication both among themselves and with the Russians. First of all, this is the language barrier. There is information that they allegedly shot 8 Kadyrov's troops, but there is no photo confirmation yet, so we will leave this at the level of rumors. What I was talking about when information first appeared about their possible participation in the war, how will they even coordinate their actions if the Russians themselves often have absolute chaos? The fourth, and probably the most interesting, they absolutely do not understand what drones are, neither ordinary drones nor FPV. For them, it's like a UFO, that is, as in this photo, they just look at them in surprise and do not hide, they just stop and observe. And this is something extraordinary. In this picture, you see a screenshot from the official website of the North Korean party. This is news for their population. Everything is written exactly in the style of those crazy videos where they cry in thousands, crawl, and reach out to Kim. Just pure madness. I'll translate the fragment word for word. Joint exercises of North Korean Special Forces and the 810th Marine Brigade of the Russian Navy are taking place in the Kursk region. The exercises provided Russian soldiers with a unique opportunity to adopt the experience of one of the best trained and professional armies in the world. What? What? This is a word-for-word translation. I can't access this site because it's probably blocked by every possible internet operator in the world. From what I read, it sounds exactly like this. The Koreans are telling their people that they came as a super army to teach the Russians how Lukashenko's special forces in Belarus don't look so crazy anymore. North Korean instructors demonstrate advanced technology and strategic thinking that allows them to effectively overcome the most difficult lines of defense. The program includes storming underground forts, clearing tunnels. Everything is exactly like in the movie The Interview with Seth Rogen, just some kind of a parallel reality. They really think that they are a super army with a super technology, and I really wonder how the Russians feel in the place of the students of a great nation. God, what a disgrace. I want to earn more money to send more donations to FPVs for Ukrainian army and see more videos from drone cameras where our pilots chase them and the Russians across the open agricultural fields. On December 13th, we celebrate the birthday of a great man, composer Mykola Leontovych, who wrote the song Shchedrik, which you most likely know as Carol of the Bells and definitely hear every year during Christmas. I will show some pictures that the United 24 Foundation collected and leave a link to the original recording and to this post, which is called Russians Killed Ukraine's Composer While His Masterpiece Played in Europe. Born in 1877 in the village of Monastyrok in Ukraine, then part of the Russian Empire, Leontovych was raised in a musical family. In the early 20th century, he composed Shchedrik, a choral work based on traditional Ukrainian folk chant. And every year we have a tradition of visiting our neighbors on Christmas Eve and singing this exact song and others similar. While Jor was performing Shchedrik in Paris on January 23, 1921, Leontovych was shot in his father's home by a Soviet agent and informant Grishenko for political reasons. After the collapse of the Ukrainian People's Republic, Koshetsky was unable to return to Ukraine. They continued their tour in the United States and performed Shchedrik at the Carnegie Hall on October 5, 1922. This story reminds me of the Tom Hanks movie The Terminal, when he had nowhere to return to because his country was gone. But after this performance at the Carnegie Hall, they left an important mark on world culture. In 1936, American composer Peter Vilhovsky wrote English lyrics to Leontovich's melody, transforming Shchedrik into Carol of the Bells. This version has since become a staple of Christmas celebrations around the world. This is the version you know. I will leave a link below to the QA performing the original version of Shchedrik. Listen, it's wonderful. The most tragic thing is that today, 96 years after the Soviets killed Leontovych, the city of Pokrovsk, where he lived for 4 years and founded Kyiv, is being wiped off the ground by the artillery of the heroes of these very Soviets. The Russians are advancing on Pokrovsk, where there are monuments to Leontovych, memorial plaques, and a museum named after him. This story goes on forever. It began in 2022 or in 2014 or 100 years ago or more. I have no idea how we can normally exist next to the Russians. Just 3 years ago, I thought differently. It seemed to me that all these terrible stories of the past remained somewhere far away in history, buried in a casket of a Soviet Union, but here we are. Russian losses in the war. Over the past day, we shot 1,010 occupiers of the Russian and Korean variety. We also burned 12 tanks, 29 armored and 82 regular vehicles, 23 artillery systems. As you can see, the number of destroyed occupiers has decreased due to the weather, but they still keep storming every day and night. Over the past day alone, our General Staff statistics recorded 228 combat clashes. That's a lot. The artillery is working. In 24 hours, they fired more than 4,000 cannon shots at us and carried out 36 airstrikes. It's important to understand that the Russians are going all in now. It's critical for them to bite off as much of our land as possible before the possible negotiation process at the beginning of the next year. They are hoping for Trump to be accommodating, and it's difficult to predict anything here, really. I don't expect a gift from fate, but I want a common sense to prevail over this endless horror. The damn Russians and Koreans are killing us, and no one wants to get their hands dirty to put the terrorists in their place, but only tell us, Ukraine, that's it, stop fighting, you've lost enough already. What a farce. Well, I'm grateful to everyone who watched these videos and continues to support us almost 3 years since the invasion began. It's hard and it's getting boring, I understand. Thank you, take care, and I hope to see you tomorrow.